Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hey Joe Show. I am your host Joe, and joined with me is the lovely and talented, well, or otherwise known as Erin. Either one, you can call her Hey Joe, yeah, Miss Hey Joe, or Erin.
It's fun to say it that way.
I agree with you, but either way, you're the looks and the personality, and I'm just here because somebody's got to wear a hat and sit on this side of the table from you. But we do want to welcome you to tonight's show, and whether or not we go the whole time tonight, I don't know. It seems like we're saying that more and more.
Yeah, that's what you say like every week.
But
and guess what?
We usually go over.
We
go over. Time means nothing when you're having fun. Let's just be real. And when we go on the Hey Joe Show, we end up having fun, no matter what kind of day we've had. And we have great days. We get to worship with the family of God. But sometimes we're just worn out. But not tonight. Tonight we come with a renewed energy.
We have so much energy that because we said we're going to... In the past, when we said we're tired and we were going to go short and we went over, now that we have energy, that means we're going to go
way over.
And everyone's like tuning out right now.
That's right. That's right. Hello, Jonathan Exum.
Reverse energy, right? Maybe we'll actually finish early.
That's right. Probably will not. So tonight we do want to thank the folks over.
Positive, Joe.
Thank the folks over at the lightnetwork.tv for partnering with the Hey Joe Show.
Partner.
That's right. Partnering.
I can't say that slowly.
That's all right. It's hard to say it regularly.
I was help you say it, and then I...
No reason to, but we want to thank the guys at the lightnetwork.tv and invite you to go over there and look at all the family of podcasts that exist there. Obviously, you are finding us live tonight, those of you who are joining us on Facebook, but also check us out on Instagram and Twitter. Would love for you to follow what we put. Well, we are kind of cool because we post things. We post things throughout the week that are trying to encourage people to center people back on God and their walk with Him. So anyhow, obviously, we want to ask you to go to KyoPublications.org. Check out what we have going on there. A lot of things in the works. It seems like there's always something in the works at Kyo Publications.
Always.
But that's a good thing.
Things in the works right now.
If you're not doing something, you're standing still, and that's really not going to benefit either. So unless you're sitting down waiting on God to answer, direction in life or prayer or something like that. But
basically, don't listen to anything Joe says.
No,
just kidding.
Just tune me out tonight. But anyhow, tonight's show, we're going to get right into it because I want to deal with a subject that I don't know. Tonight, it's pretty important to me, and one that this series, obviously, we're playing off of questions that have been asked of teenagers and that have been discussed in the past over the years of our work with teens. And so tonight's episode is going to deal with the subject of role models. And so I'll simply say this. It was posted. I remember basketball stars like Charles Barkley. Obviously, this is not a teenager. Charles Barkley, who at times struggled with his public image.
You never know if somebody, was really into
basketball history. But I think it was Charles Barkley. Hey, Jay Zerp. It was Charles Barkley who said this. Sports stars.
That was really random for all of you who are just listening to the audio and not watching live.
That's right. Every now and again on Facebook Live, we get people to tell us hello, and we want to give a shout out to people who are joining us live. So anyhow, Charles Barkley said this: sports stars are not role models. And I asked the question, and I ask you today, do you agree with that? You think about role models that different people have, and oftentimes role models are individuals who are in the limelight. They're very public individuals, individuals that sell things such as clothing lines or music or movies, or maybe they are in a position that they have a jersey that has their name and number on it, and it seems like individuals can look up to these people for certain things, and oftentimes it's for superficial things. I don't know how else to say that, oftentimes. But superficial things would be like their dress, their cool factor. Maybe if somebody is outspoken, then the individual would respect that about them, and maybe they would try to imitate that in their life and become an outspoken individual. But the question tonight is this: as we think about role models, I really want to start a question on, especially for teenagers, but also parents of young people. What kind of role model are we seriously supposed to have? And are role models a good thing or are they a bad thing? Because I read an article not long ago.
Oh, I know the answer.
What?
Both.
Oh, maybe they're both, right? Depends
Or
on
is
if
that a
I'm their
cop
role
out?
model or not. But the idea was I read an article not long ago about role models. And the article, and of course, I'll go ahead and plug it. It was a good article written by my friend Ben Gesselbach on Plain Simple Faith. If
Check
you haven't
out
checked
Plain
them
Simple
out, I would
Faith.
encourage you to check
Faith.
them out. Plain Simple Faith.
Wow, we're struggling tonight.
But it was about how role models, they fail. And when role models fail, what are the consequences that has on individuals who have elevated these men and women to a position and having given them the privilege of influence in their own life? Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay, so here's the deal that I want to talk about tonight is this. Role models. First of all, who do you think are some of the big role models today? I'm just going to kind of look
Today?
this up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now this is where like I'm supposed to pretend like I'm cool and I'm like up on all this stuff. Like I'm supposed to be.
That's right.
Let's see. Um are we talking musically? Are we talking theatrically? Are we talking sport?
We're talking whatever you want to bring to the table. I'll throw one out, okay?
Please do, because I'm
This is
stressing over here. I have test anxiety. You're testing me.
well, don't do that. This is an article from parenting.com.
Okay.
And it says 10 celebrity role models for kids. And of course, I think it's quite interesting that when you look up role models, the first thing that comes up are celebrities, right? But it first talks about this, that the Kardashians are not the only people that are out there, right? Now, as much as you'd like to think about it saying, hey, my kids will never look up to the Kardashians, and I hope you're right in that, but there are others that they put forth. And so one of those that they put forth, Erin, is Gabby Douglas, who in 2012, she was relatively unknown, but after her display at the Summer Olympics, she became a household name. Not only did Douglas, who is now 19, remain calm, gracious, and poised under the pressure of the judges and the millions of the people who were watching, she made history when she became the first African-American gymnast to win both the individual all-around gold medal and a team gold at an Olympics. So they would say that Gabby Douglas
Oh, I know who she is. It took me a second.
would be poised under pressure and would be somebody that individuals could look up to. So that would be one individual. Some of these, I got to tell you, I'm not even going to read them off. Another individual is an individual by the name of Malala Yousafzai,
I don't know.
who is known as Malala, needs little introduction. At the age of 18, she is the youngest ever Nobel Prize laureate and the personification of the word brave. Malala stood up against the Taliban for the educational rights of young girls in her native Pakistan and got shot in the process. So when you go through this list of stars and you go through the list of individuals, I find it quite interesting that oftentimes the first place that people look for role models are individuals who are in front of a camera. That's almost like the more your child spends with individuals in front of a camera, the better likelihood that they're going to influence the kids.
So this one I just looked at said that Prince William and Prince Harry are role models.
I wonder why.
Well, it has to do with, let me see. It looks like they do a lot of suicide awareness, possibly mental health campaigning, according to this article. I don't know. It's the only names I recognized in this.
Interesting. So here's my thing, which goes to the next question: is this why do people choose certain role models? In other words, why is it that when you and I do just a brief search on the internet, the first ones that pop up are individuals who are celebrities or individuals who are in the limelight? I guess I'm curious why. Why do we choose the role models that we choose? Why is it that
Because they
celebrities are the ones
in
chosen?
The limelight.
Yeah, does that mean then that young people want to be in the limelight? Or is it a situation, and here's where I'm getting with this that causes me more concern, it does, is that role models have influence in the lives of young people to shape attitudes and behaviors. And if they are spending more time with individuals who are influencing attitudes and behaviors that are outside of what God would have us to be, then that concept of role model begins to become very scary to me.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this is a year old because obviously we're coming at the end of 2018, so this is like a 2017 top 10 best role models for kids. Now, a lot's happened with this particular celebrity that they have in the number one spot in the last just month. But this remember this was 2017, and this is just interesting me to see the variation of who these people are. But number one was Taylor Swift on this particular one. Like I said, she's come into a lot of the spotlight in the last month. But contrasting that, it says number two is Jesus, which I just think is interesting. Because then you go down to Emma Watson, who played Belle on the most current live action Beauty and the Beast, and Hermione for all those Harry Potter fans. But then Demi Lovato, which is interesting because if you follow her at all, you know, she used to kind of be what you'd put more in that goody character, and she is not so much anymore.
Right.
So it's really, I don't know, Ariana Grande. It's just interesting to see the contrast in the people here.
Right. And I guess that, and of course, for the purpose of our show is not to identify all of the role models
Really, because
that
I was just
are around today.
I've got like five or six more. No,
I know, but you know what I would love to find? I would love to find individuals like your preacher, or even a coach, or your parents, an older sibling, older member of the Lord's church.
Right, because
where are those lists?
Right, because like in this list, it says the top 10 best role models for kids. It doesn't say like who they should be, the type of qualities, or the type of job descriptions maybe, but it's specific celebrities.
Right. And so that is my question. And of course, I believe, and I know that you know this about me, that we must be intentional when it comes to our own Christian walk. And I'm talking to teenagers and I'm talking to adults today, right? We've got to be intentional when it comes to our Christian walk. And so the idea is this: if I'm not intentional about my role models, then am I being intentional about those that I allow to influence my life? And so I would propose this to you, that there are certain things that we ought to look for in role models beyond their fashion, right? Because let's just be real. Not everybody can be as fashionable as I am.
Yeah, I did not see that one coming in at
not
all.
Everybody can pull off the things that I pull off and make it look good.
Yeah.
Right? So some people have to dress another way. Right?
Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure that I threw that shirt away and you went and bought another one exactly like it.
I didn't buy it. I got it out of the garbage can, just so you know. I did. You threw it away, and I bought it. I got it out of the garbage can.
At least you didn't spend money on it twice. Okay.
Nope, but I sure saved it. There's no doubt about that. But the idea is this.
That's what you want to call it. Okay.
If we're not intentional about the role models that we have in our life, then we're not being intentional about those that we allow to influence us. So here's the deal.
So there's a comment. It says we have confused Hollywood fame for role models.
Absolutely we have. And, of course, I think that's because our society elevates fame. I saw something else on here, just doing a quick look over a couple articles, that one of the things that makes an individual role model or not is their fashion. I did see that. Another one would be, how popular are they? And so if they're popular, then they're one of my role models.
I really want to like pop out in song, but popular.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. You'd have to charge people extra.
I know
for this podcast.
I know.
Now, even though you have a beautiful voice,
you already
but
ruined
we
that
would
one.
have to charge extra.
You already ruined. Okay, we have another comment, which is going to save you.
Save me?
Yes, after what you just said. The problem with celebrity role models, and celebrities in quotes, is so.
And I would say this to you: it's not just that celebrities can become little g gods to people. I think that if you're not careful, there's borderline on role models becoming more, having more emphasis and influence in a life, that you look up to them almost as if they're too perfect, right? And so therefore, in your role model, you got to keep them in perspective.
There's only
role models. Role models are going to fail. Thus, the article from Plain Simple Faith. And I think that we've got to realize that there's not going to be a perfect role model, but I do believe there are some characteristic traits that we can look for in role models. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start it off, and let's just have this discussion. So if
Okay.
you're on Facebook tonight,
Let's have it.
and
Join us.
you want to
It's
join in
way
on
more fun when you guys
on
have
this
comments.
subject, then I would encourage
So
you
much
to do
better
so.
than
So,
just the thoughts of Joe and Erin.
all right, so here you go. I'll start it off. Number one, I believe role models ought to have an eternal focus. My goal is not to raise my child to be in the movies one day. Now, if they choose to do that, that's up to them. And I pray they will be a shining light in oftentimes what is a dark industry. However, I will say this. It is more important to me that my children imitate and allow to be influential in their life individuals who have an eternal focus. In other words, they recognize that this world is short lived, that they're not going to be here long, and that person is constantly looking towards the time that they get to go home to be with God in heaven. So I'll start it off, an eternal focus. Your turn. It's like a ping pong match.
Okay. So remind me what we're talking about again. No,
we're talking about Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, I can sing
Come
that
on,
too.
girl.
All right, so we're talking about characters. I'm sorry, I'm also trying to do the web
characteristics of role models that you would want.
I'm doing the computer too.
That you believe are essential.
Characteristics of role models. Kindness. Always choose kindness.
Okay. Who said that?
I think it's from the live action Cinderella. Anyway, okay. You're like, Erin chose something from Disney.
Who shaped? Yeah, what shapes your conclusions?
I mean, seriously, I want my kids to emulate people that are kind because I think we live in a nasty world. And I don't mean nasty like gross. I mean like mean. Nasty mean.
Okay.
That's what I mean. I mean nasty mean. I just think I think they have a tendency to not be kind.
Okay.
And that can go in a lot of directions. When people are bitter, when people are grouchy, when people think they are entitled to more than they have, when people want to put down other people, when people think they're better than other people. So you can go in a million different directions. It's a pretty generic question, answer. Kind of like, when you're asking a Bible question, your kids say, Jesus. The answer is Jesus. However, the answer is Jesus. And role models should be kind.
There you go. All right. So we've got eternal focus and we've got kind. All right. So here's my next one then. And of course, if you
remember,
get some.
If you're listening. Oh, good. We have one. Someone who exemplifies servanthood. Thank you. Thank you for not leaving me out there having to be on test here and coming up with all the answers.
That's right. Someone who exemplifies servanthood.
Servanthood.
I like that. Now, here's what's weird about that is that's got to be observed. It's difficult to claim to be a servant if you're never serving, right? And so that person's got to be out there. I will throw this one out there. How about this one? You ready? I want, as a role model in my life and for my children, someone who understands full commitment.
Ooh,
and by that
I
mean
you were gonna pretty much say the same thing as your first one.
No, from that I mean this. I mean individuals who have been committed and remain committed through the years, regardless of good and bad, those are individuals who understand what it is to stick with their word, but they also understand the seriousness of making a vow and a commitment. And of course, the first thing that comes to my mind is individuals who have been married to their spouse all along. I don't know how else to say that, right? Be it 25 years, be it 30 years, be it 50 years. The deal was when they made a commitment, that they stuck to the commitment.
Well, and I think that goes along really well with a comment that was made for unselfishness. It was put forth here on our Facebook page, and that kind of goes hand in hand with commitment because a lot of times you have to pour yourself of being... you have to pour yourself of yourself so you can be unselfish, and that goes hand in hand with commitment. A lot of times when you do that, that helps you be better committed to a person, or because you are committed to that person, you'll be unselfish. And another thing she said was humility, which kind of also goes hand in hand with unselfishness. Sometimes you just have to be humble and realize it's not all about you. And
well, and I obviously am not looking at the same screens that you're looking at. So, but humility was coming to my mind as well, being humble. But I thought it was interesting, and I didn't originate it. I think it was Hiawatha Jones who said it in one of the lessons I heard him deliver, was everybody wants to be humble, but no one can claim to be humble.
Oh, yes.
And I thought, because
that was last year,
that is strong, because At the point in time you claim humility, you've just lost what humility is all about.
That was, I remember when he said that because it stuck with me. I'd never heard anybody put it that way, but what a great point.
So the question is this then, how do I know if somebody's humble? And the only way is by observing.
Observing, which is one
Right.
reason why it's such a great quality.
So
I keep
role
hitting
models,
my
and I guess I want to throw this out
microphone
there.
here.
Role models don't necessarily set out to be role models. Role models are who they are supposed to be consistently, and others observe them to be people they want to follow.
Well, and don't you kind of think that goes hand in hand with kind of that that comment that you just mentioned that Hiawatha made about you can't claim, everybody wants to be humble, but they can't claim humility. Kind of goes hand in hand with the role model. Like, I would hope that everyone would want to be a role model to somebody, but if you're trying so hard to be a role model, then you're probably exemplifying a lot of the qualities that might be the opposite.
Well,
of
and
a
I
role
would even
model.
say
And
that.
not always.
Think about
but
this.
in some areas.
If you're not careful, if my aim is to be your role model, then in some way, shape, or form, I'm elevating myself
Okay, that's what I was trying to
to
say.
a
You just
position
wrapped it up and
where
said it a lot better.
others should imitate me, and of course that's dangerous. Now, here's what's
Because
interesting.
we're supposed to imitate Christ.
Well, the Apostle Paul would say in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1, imitate me as I imitate Christ, right?
Right.
And so the issue was not that to be a role model is a, or to have individuals imitate you is a sin, but the deal is in order for you to be a qualified role model, you must be following the right role models.
Right. And
And
your
in that
goal should be
text-
following the right role model and not just so everybody can follow you.
Right. And so that text, obviously, Paul was saying this, follow Christ, and in following Christ, you can follow me.
Right. And we have a couple comments here, and I want to read them before I lose them
Go ahead.
because, every Sunday night, for some reason, like my computer goes ballistic during the Hey Joe show. But anyway, someone said patience, so we can talk about that in a second, but also someone who can admit fault or a repentant quality, which I think
Absolutely.
is great.
Absolutely, because here's the deal. I'm not expecting my role models, either mine personally or those that may be role models in the lives of my children outside of Erin or I, to be perfect individuals. But I would want them to be individuals that are in tune with their walk with the Lord, that when they find they are no longer walking in the light, according to 1 John chapter 1, that they are quick to have a heart that will repent and will come back. I agree with that wholeheartedly, because here's why. Because being a role model is not always about doing it right. Being a role model is also about recovery when wrong has been done.
Right. And I would say hand in hand with that is forgiveness when they realize they've done wrong. The kind of hand in hand, same thing. But, a lot of times people can be prideful and, kind of bow their back about it. And so kind of probably going a little bit back to the humility part, a lot of these can intertwine.
Sure.
Just having that quality of, I did wrong. I admit it. I want forgiveness. Okay. I'm going to read this because I want to read it while I've got it here in front of me. But someone made the comment, as a parent, we have to realize that the world is making a standard contrary to God, and those models are made as a standard for our children. We must instill the Bible into our children's minds and show them by our example how a role model is one who puts God first, which kind of wraps up nicely a lot of what's been said so far.
Right. And I would say this too, and I don't know.
And he agrees with us. So it's a great comment.
It's a great
Let me
comment.
just tell you, wonderful.
But what about this? We think of role models, and it's hard because right now the conversation of role model is who's alive today. And of course, my understanding of the scripture is that parents ought to be the one that sets the pace for the actions and what it looks like to live as a Christian. Mm-hmm. So I start with that default, but I also know this in a practical sense. There will be other individuals that will have influence in the lives of our children, and that they will choose as role models outside of you and I. That will happen, and the reason I know it will happen is because it happened to us. We had individuals that would model for us what it was to walk in a role, and sometimes that's within a job, sometimes that's within ministry, sometimes that's within personal life, just personal walk. But the deal is this: we've talked about it so far in the sense of who is alive, but what about the concept of this? Not just the qualities of people, but what if, and maybe we can talk a little bit about this, is it possible for individuals in the Bible, while dead, can still be role models? In other words, is there anything about Joseph from the book of Genesis that I could use to teach my children so that Joseph becomes a role model? Go ahead. I'm going to be quiet now.
No, I was just reading a very nice comment that just came through, but I don't think I could read it to you because you have to remain humble.
All
No,
right.
I'll read it since it's not about me. Jonathan Exum says, I'd say that Joe is a great role model to me. You have a wonderful character and a great influence on many young people in the church.
Oh, I like him a lot.
I'm
Jonathan,
gonna
I
cry.
like
That was
you.
so sweet.
You are right on. No, I'm teasing.
So
Seriously.
well.
Jonathan, I do appreciate that. Thank you, my friend.
That was
very
very
kind
nice.
of you.
Okay, now that I'm gonna quit crying. All right, compassionate was another thing that's written on here.
So patient and compassionate are two qualities that we have not talked much about.
No, oh yes, that's right. We did have the patient.
Right.
Yes, patience a good one because I would say that a lot of us are lacking patience. I put myself in that category.
Well, hey, and I would say
we
this.
live in a very impatient society.
The more I hang around people that can help diffuse, I would say patience is a diffusing concept, but it's also a reserving maybe your initial, whatever I initially want to respond as, I slow down so I don't blow a gasket and write off an email too quick or put a tweet out too quick. And the way that I deal with other people will be influenced by my patience. And again, that's an observation. I can only observe that. And I guess in all of this, that's what we're getting at. And with compassionate even, I will see compassion not because somebody tells me they are compassionate, but because they demonstrate that they are compassionate, right?
Right.
And so in my life, I will observe people and they will earn the right to have influence in my life. And so I would say this, that if you want your children to have role models, then you better expose them to people as parents in an intentional manner that you want to be role models to your kids. Does that make sense, though? Don't just throw them out there to the world and say, I hope you can find some good role models. What if you said, I'm going to purpose to surround my kids with individuals that I have observed these qualities in their life, and I want my children to observe those qualities in their life and to look up to them?
Yes. Okay, we have a question. Can you give us an explanation of what meekness is?
Oh, wow. Well, it's not weakness. I understand that. Your weakness is weakness. I will not go that far. It's my understanding, and I'd have to go back in the text, and I can. But meekness...
I know the answer to this.
I don't even have it with me.
But it's leaving my brain. I did a class on this with teenage girls.
Meekness, as I understand it, is power under control.
That's right.
It's like a horse that has the ability to do what it wants because it has the strength and the power, but it is brought under control. Now, the difference would be that a horse is brought under control by the training of someone else. Meekness, if I understand it correctly, it is being in control, not thinking too high of self, even though you have maybe something to think high about, but you have power under control, and you choose to control that on your own. It's not a thinking less of yourself as much as it is choosing to be under control. I don't know how else to say that. Now, if I totally blew, will answer, I'm sure. So,
well, I personally think it was a good summarization. Summarization. There you go. Also, Miss Peggy Coulter said, going back to talking about how we can learn from role models who are no longer alive, she said yes to whatever you said earlier. Joseph, I think, ran from temptation. Ran as in like capital letters.
Run away. Yeah. What I was saying is this: we talk about role models from the standpoint of those who are alive, and I get that. But what about those who are in the Bible?
Right, and I think
whose life is in their account of their life of faithfulness is still being told and still speaking today.
I think we almost have to teach a younger generation, or even my generation, how to observe Bible characters, for lack of a better word. Obviously, they were real people, but almost teach them how you can look at them as role models, because I think a lot of times we think about role models as people we can observe physically with our eyes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it almost has to be a learned skill there.
A learned skill in the sense of learning to observe the characters of people in the Bible.
Through written word, and not just from either in person, like personal contact, or visual.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I'm just throwing this out there. We're having more of a discussion tonight on the Hey Joe Show, not in the sense of we are the end all, sense
No.
of definitely being parents who want to be intentional with the role models that our children are exposed to. And that doesn't mean that our kids don't watch TV, even though obviously you all know already we limit that.
They still do.
They still do, and it doesn't mean that they're just listening to any and every song that comes on or any and every
We do monitor
artist.
that as well.
But here's the thing: I know that my kids will be influenced by those that they are around, and so I want to be intentional about who they are around. And so I guess from that standpoint, it's okay, what qualities do we want them to be around? And also this, is it possible that I can be intentional in helping shape their character by exposing them to individuals in the Bible who would serve as great role models and have been put forth and their accounts have been preserved for our benefit? Not for us necessarily just to see them, but to see God in their life and in their account. And what did we learn along the way about those individuals? So anyhow, any other comments before we wrap the show up?
I don't think we have any new ones.
Wow, okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and push pause on the show then tonight. Thank you for tuning in with us. It's always an honor and a blessing to be able to go live with you on Facebook. Thank you for those who joined in with us and participated and left comments.
We always love participation.
You make the show so much better. And so we just want to say thank you for that. And obviously there are going to be some who will download this and listen on Thursday when the lightnetwork.tv releases it. And we thank you for subscribing to this podcast, for downloading the podcast, and for giving us your feedback then too. And so please, if you have not already subscribed to this podcast, please go to your podcast location of choice and do so and rate us and leave a comment for us. Go to the lightnetwork.tv. Check us out there. There's all kinds of different places that you can subscribe to get this podcast. We would love for you to do that. And, of course, if you have not liked us on Facebook yet and you are interested in seeing the live show, that's every Sunday night at 8:30. And I say every. I'm not going to pretend that we're on every night because sometimes we just can't go on. But it will happen at Sunday nights at 8:30 Central Standard Time. So that's all that I have. Check us out at kyopublications.org for all of your family needs and all of your congregational needs when it comes to all things resource-wise. So anyhow,
All things.
You'll see what we have there. Anyhow, that's all we have. Erin, anything else?
No.
All right, we are
Good
out.
night.
Please hang up and try again.